Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and we're continuing the series on Derbyshire churches. This is the church of St Giles Hartington. Hartington has nothing to do with deer, though the name suggests it, and of course St Giles has an association with deer. Rather, it comes from a personal name and has just been distorted over time. St Giles was a hermit, and churches dedicated to him are often found in remote places, which is certainly what this dale must have been when the first church was built here. There may very well have been a Saxon church, but the earliest parts of the present building are 13th century. As usual, it has developed over time, and as we look around, we shall see some of these features. It's another church where, thankfully, the Victorians have not taken all the plaster off the walls, and there's a good reason why that is a thing to be thankful for, and we shall see as we go around. So, let's do that. St Giles Hartington is nothing if not a big church. It not only has aisles to the south and the north, but also has both south and north transepts, so it is cruciform. The chancel is what is described often as a weeping chancel, that is to say that it is not centred but leans to one side. It used to be thought that this was a representation of the head of Christ leaning to one side while on the cross, but it has more recently been realised that it's just simply to do very often with that they might start building the chancel and the nave at opposite ends, and then when they came to meet in the middle they hadn't got things quite right, or that it was to do with the lie of the land, that the best land to build on meant that the chancel had to be at something of an angle. This is not one of the most pronounced weeping chancels. There are some that are incredibly obviously off kilter. So we'll start off in the north aisle here. We have your usual collection of interesting memorials. You have here Anne Enser, Richard Enser of Congleton, Thomas Bateman of Middleton Hall. We have this rather amazing shape there, and then just below we have the plaster's been taken off to reveal some black letter text, probably a post-Reformation wall painting. At the Reformation, the old wall paintings that showed scenes from the Bible and from mythology were whitewashed over, and Bible texts were painted in their place. Here we have William Smith's window, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." The organ is here in the north transept. Now there is something written on this organ, so does it tell us it's an interesting organ? It says the Hartington organ. Well, we knew that. This is an apprentice piece built by the Manchester firm of Kirtland and Jardine in about 1845. Single manual, there we are. Well, you can't really see here, but single manual and just some foot pedals, but you can't really see because the lighting isn't good enough. So it's single manual, apprentice piece. That means it would have been built by an apprentice rather than a master. Coupled pedal board. So quite a notable organ, and on the historic organs list up here you can see again some more wall painting, and there's the royal arms. I can just make out the royal arms there. So this again is post-Reformation, and there's some texts. And it's a reminder that these whitewashed walls are not what we would have seen in the early 17th century in many churches. We would have seen walls covered with Bible texts. The pulpit is Victorian, and we have a wooden eagle lectern with a figure of, can't really see in this light, but St Giles on the front. The chancel, big, and just see there, that would have been the access to the rood screen. The chancel arch has been renewed in the 19th century, so no sign of what it was. More Reformation wall painting. And here we are in the chancel. We've got a nice stone reredos, bit of alabaster work, altar frontal. So John Hayward Alsop of Leek, who died 1821, aged 31. and looking west you can see the bare stone of the tower, but that's very good stonework. That again I think would have been intended to be left exposed. Some more exposed bits of wall painting, because there's quite a depth in there of plaster and whitewash, layer upon layer, more Bible texts. There's a frame, bit of a frame down there, sacred to the memory of Anne, the wife of the late Thomas Pearson, Esquire of South Wingfield in this country, who died in this county, who died at the house of her son-in-law, the Reverend Augustus Workman, vicar of this parish, on July the 21st, 1868, 71 years. She rests in perfect peace through faith in Christ. It's a big pulpit, that one. Probably, well, definitely bigger than what it replaced, almost definitely. Font, nice piece of, it looks 14th century, bit of tracery carving. We have more memorials here. Charles Flint of Leek, native of this village. There's the parable of the soils, otherwise known as the sower. We have a tomb recess there, and a piscina. No piscina in the chancel because that has been replaced. And Joseph Goodwin of Hartington there. So here there's an aisle on the transept. These are unusual. Normally aisles just are on the nave and not the transepts. There are very few where. Now up here there's the drum that would have been from the volunteer band, and it's up there. The volunteers, of course, the military, and they would have marched along beating the drum. Up here we have the emblems of the 12 tribes of Israel paintings. So interesting building, and again you've got whacking great pulpit. The font being here is unusual. Normally fonts, as we know, are at the west end, but here it's up here so people can, well, at least try to see during baptisms. The aisle on the transept is clearly later. It is a different style of carving than the main aisles. It looks like this is 14th century, whereas that would be 13th century. So there we have it, the interior here. It's a very interesting building, and well then, just have a look at the outside. That's the entrance, I suspect, to a vestry down there, because the tower is over there. So here we are, and we have at the back an old picture, an old painting of the church before restoration. So bear that in mind when we look at the outside. So here we are outside at St Giles Hartington. It's starting to rain here, so it's going to be a little bit rushed on the outside. Also, it's just gone 4 o'clock, which is when the church is supposed to close, hence rushing around the inside. But you can see here we've got this fine west tower, nice bit of 14th, 15th century work, and again the very nice nave. Well, let's quickly hurry around as the rain is starting to come tumbling down. Now we are very much here, of course, in the Peak District. Just pan around. This is the roofs of Hartington, because the church is up at the top of the village, which is a nice location. Undoubtedly the church is here basically the foundation of the village. Say St Giles is often associated with churches in desolate places, in isolated locations. See there, nice 2-story porch, nice gargoyles. I always like gargoyles. Thankfully it hasn't been raining long enough for the gargoyles to be vomiting forth the water. You have that very interesting aisled transept, and in between the transept aisle and the porch is a little vestry, and above the door is a modern sculpture of St Giles with his deer, his deer, female deer, and again gargoyle up there. You can see how everything's been fitted together really, just as it's expanded over time. Right. Sort of watch my footing here sometimes, more than sometimes. It's good solid local stone, and you'll notice the use of different coloured stone to create an effect here. And there you have the priest's door. Carry on around here. Nice railed enclosure. Can't see whose vault is in there. There can be a vault in there, I expect. Tower, transept, chancel, and then we move around the outside. The rain has more or less eased off now. I think it's just a scattered shower, as they say, but I've got to watch myself underfoot. It's January, we've got a lot of decayed leaf mould underfoot. So that's the east end, that nice big window. And they come up here all the way to the top, and we have the north side with that north transept sticking out there, and the village down below. You can see the old roof line on the tower, and that good solid masonry. Contrast the masonry of the transept and the tower. The tower masonry is ashlar. The transept we can see here is rubble. You can also just see in the angle between the chancel and the transept, rather, there is evidence that that's where the rood stair was, and there's probably the remains of the stair just bricked up or inside the wall. So shift around here, picking our way through the old gravestones. Nice bit of 13th century work there. It's got one of the oldest parts of the church, that, with those windows. And Hartington is in a valley. It's a good location for a village here. There's the north doorway, and in the block north doorway, well, you can see that down to the boiler room in the basement. But in there we have a couple of pieces of medieval masonry, and you've got a nice crocketed pinnacle, and on the end here we have, as ever is, was, and shall be for a while yet, a gargoyle ready to vomit. As they always are, because that's what they do. That's part of being a gargoyle. So that is St Giles Hartington. Maybe a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but again, I don't want to make this too long, and also rain, and I'm very conscious that the church is supposed to close here at 4 o'clock. So St Giles Hartington. So as we've seen, this is one of the more complicated types of medieval church. West tower, nave, chancel, transepts, aisles on the nave. It's a magnificent building, and very much a building that is still in use here, and still a part of the community. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you, and see you, God willing, in the next one. Thank you again.